Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Avajananti Mamura Manushim Tanumashritam Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. Okay, so translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, 9th chapter, 11th verse. Fools deride me when I descend in human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as Supreme Lord of all that be. So purport by Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From the other explanations of the previous verse in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. That is why Krishna says in this word, in this verse, this word is used Manushim Tanum Ashritam. So generally Mayavadis like to translate this word as Krishna comes, Tanu means body. So Krishna takes a human body. Manushim means Manushya, human. But we should not take it as human body. This word is not Manushya, this is Manushim. Manushim means human-like. Manushya means human. So that is why to know little Sanskrit it is good, no? It is Manushim, human form. It is not human body. It is not Manushya. It is not human. It is human-like form. Manushim. So that is why Krishna says, I descend in human-like form. That is why Prabhupada starts this verse with this line, appearing like a human being, not a common man. See? So Prabhupada exactly knows what Mayavadis are going to comment on this verse. And right in the first sentence, Prabhupada smashes Mayavad. So I told you, when we read Prabhupada purports, there are two things you have to keep in mind. Prem Prachar and Pashanda Dalan. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Dhui Karya Avdhut, Prem Prachar or Pashanda Dalan. So Prabhupada is establishing Krishna, one, and other, he is cutting all wrong philosophies. So by this first statement, he is trying to refute Mayavad. And you might not realize that this first statement is commentary to this Manushim. So we have to connect the purport with the verse. Otherwise it's an ordinary statement. You might think, oh come on, this. So many times it's repeated, no? Like a human being, not a common man. Okay, let's go forward. No, actually you have to connect it. Context. You have to see the context. The personality of Godhead who conducts the creation, maintenance, annihilation of complete cosmic manifestation cannot be a human being. So, the next word, Param Bhavam Ajananto. That's a Sanskrit verse. Param Bhavam Ajananto. So, Param Bhavam, Prabhupada translates. Param means Prabhupada translates as transcendental. And Bhavam means nature. So, Prabhupada explains his transcendental nature by this second line of the purport. What is his transcendental nature? That he conducts creation, maintenance and annihilation of complete cosmic manifestation. This is meant by transcendental. Transcendental doesn't mean that whom you cannot understand. Or transcendental doesn't mean that there's a lot of glow. People think like that, no? Divya Jyoti. Because when Krishna came on this earth, when people saw him, he was looking like ordinary man. If we would have been there and Krishna would have been there in that house, we would not have even recognized him. There were many people who didn't recognize him. Why? Because Krishna purposefully hides himself. Yoga Maya Samavrita. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I hide myself from demons. So Shishupal, he couldn't recognize Krishna. He was abusing him. Duryodhan, he thought, oh, he's an ordinary man. But only Pandavas, Vrajvasis, they could see Krishna. So Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita that what's that? Natad bhashate surya na shashanko na pavaka. In that verse, Prabhupada writes that from Krishna, millions and millions of sun effulgence is coming. So the point is, when Krishna is here, why don't we see effulgence of millions of suns? Why don't we see that if Bhagavad Gita is saying that? So the answer is that that Krishna hides his effulgence from the demons, from atheistic people, doesn't show them. From Moda, Avajananti Mam, Moda, foolish people. Now what do you understand by foolish? Who is a fool? Who is a fool?
I think here it says, who consider Krishna to be merely powerful man, nothing more.
Yeah. Okay, where is okay. Yeah, next line.
Yeah.
So you see Prabhupada is explaining every word in purport. You have to connect. Otherwise it makes no sense. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Foolish person is a person who doesn't have knowledge of scriptures. That is a fool. That is why he cannot understand, that Krishna is nothing more than he thinks Krishna is nothing more than a powerful man. So any person who is devoid of knowledge of scriptures, he is fool. He might be intelligent in the estimation of other people. He might be scholarly. But he is a fool. That is why anybody who comes to meet a saint, first question he will not ask him whether you believe in God or not. The first question he will ask him whether you believe in scriptures or not. Because he might believe in God without scriptures. Then he is a fool. That's what Indians are. They believe in God but have no knowledge of scriptures. Absolutely. Their knowledge of God is just hearsay knowledge. They parent society and then they believe something. So if tomorrow somebody believes Sai Baba is God, they'll believe Sai Baba is God. No. In South India. Then maybe somebody else. So that is why Krishna says one verse in Bhagavad Gita. Can you tell me that verse where Krishna gives importance of scriptures?
16th chapter.
Yes.
One who does not follow.
Okay, yeah.
Scriptures,
Yeah.
he will fall down.
Yes, 16th chapter, last verse, 24th verse. Krishna says, Ya shastra vidhimutsritje vartate kamakarata na sa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. Krishna says, anybody who abandons shastra vidhi, he will never get perfection, neither happiness, neither peace. Krishna says, 16th chapter. So, that is how we differentiate between divine and demoniac. So, that is 16th chapter. What is the name of 16th chapter? Divine and demoniac. So, Krishna starts 16th chapter with divine qualities and demoniac qualities. But the problem with that classification is that many demons also have divine qualities. Good qualities, no? America. So many atheistic people, but they behave nicely, they talk nicely. In fact, they talk more nicely than devotees. It's fact, no? Like devotees, sometimes they do not know how to absolutely behave, So they have more manners, and sometimes they believe in truth. We should speak truth. We should help others. Compassion. It seems they are good qualities, but actually in the heart, they are atheist. They don't believe in God. So there's a problem by that division. Good qualities, bad qualities. You cannot know whether he's a divine person or a demoniac. That's why Krishna concludes this chapter by giving a twist that actually if you want to really understand who is divine, who is demoniac, you have to see how much faith he has in scriptures. If he has faith in scriptures, even though he might not have good qualities, no problem. He's a divine person because eventually he will get good qualities. But if he doesn't have faith in scriptures and he has good qualities, eventually when his selfish purpose it comes, then he will leave all good qualities and he can do any bad thing to fulfill his selfish means. No. So that is why Prabhupada says a foolish man is who considers Krishna to be merely powerful man. The point is, foolish man is who has no knowledge of scriptures, who doesn't believe in scriptures. That's the idea here. That's the idea. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality as confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Brahma Krishna, he is Supreme Lord. So by the faith according to scriptures that Krishna is God, and the faith according to social conventions that he is God, they are very two different things. That is why faith is defined as faith in scriptures, not faith in God. That is, we read last time.
Yes.
Faith Prabhupada defines as having faith in evidence of scriptures. No, faith is created by evidence of. That's why Prabhupada says that. So, if you go to South India, this Madhva Sampradaya and Madhva Brahmins, and if you say, okay, I want to have a debate with you, so then they will ask, do you believe in Vedas? If you say no, then they will give you ladige, laddu. Prasad gave him laddu, and okay, I don't want to talk. Even I don't even talk to you. There's no sense of even talking to you. Because you don't have faith in scriptures. So, question is why faith is defined by scriptural faith and not just by having faith in God. Why it is like that? Any idea why it's like that? Why?
The scriptures are Apaurushaya, like coming from Krishna.
Okay, so, well, somebody can say, I have faith in God. Okay, I don't have any knowledge of scriptures, but whether I'm a theist or atheist, how do you put that person? In which category you put that person? Theist or atheist?
Atheist. Yes,
Really? But he goes to temple and he does puja. Many Indians, no? Indian ladies, they go to temple, they puja. They're simple women. What do you put? Theist or atheist? What? Huh? Neither. Then in what category you put? Okay. What do you put in category? Okay, tell me then. There's a third category, agnostics. You heard about that?
Yeah.
Agnostics. Agnostics are not theistic people because they don't have spiritual knowledge. They're neither atheist because they have some kind of faith in God. They're going to temple daily to worship. You can't just put them in atheist category, no? So the agnostics, they are those people who have faith in God, but they don't have faith or knowledge of scriptures. These people are called agnostics. So if you give them faith of scriptures, they will become theistic. They are ready to accept. Atheists are not ready to accept. They'll argue. So agnostics are like child, Bala. That is why Bhagavatam says, this is not my category, this is Bhagavatam category. You have heard Madhyam Adhikari has 4 duties: to worship God, to make friendships with devotees, to preach to the innocent, and to avoid atheists. Puja Maitri Kripa Upeksha Ya Karoti Samadhyama, 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have to avoid atheists and preach to innocent. These innocent people are agnostics. They are innocent. You have to avoid atheists because they'll argue with you. And we might not be able to argue with them. For that we need proper knowledge, Otherwise there'll be fight, heated debates if you can't convince him. So that is what Bhagavatam says. So that is why Prabhupada brings this point of that Krishna is confirmed as God by Brahma Samhita, by scriptures. Now, there are many Ishvaras, controllers, one appears greater than the other. There are many Ishvaras. What is this? What is Prabhupada saying here? Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram Ishvara. There are many. So Prabhupada defines Ishvara as controller, not as God. It's very important. God is Bhagavan. Ishvara is controller. If you define properly, that is, Prabhupada gives a definition. So there are many controllers, and one appears greater than the another. Just like in household life, male is Ishvara. He's controller, no? He's managing everything. Or Prime Minister controlling the country. Demigods controlling universe. Then Brahma controlling demigods. And then Krishna controlling everybody. So all are Ishvaras. Actually, Prabhupada said that Krishna is Supreme Ishvara and we are tiny Ishwaras. Small Ishwaras. Prabhupada says, no. We are tiny, we like to control. We have Ishwar Bhava. Ishwar Bhav we have. You have to leave this Ishwar Bhav and get Das Bhav. That's the whole idea of Krishna consciousness, no? So that's why we don't call Krishna Ishwara. We call Krishna as Bhagwan. But you see, the above line, Brahma Samhita says Ishwara Parama Krishna. See, there's a link between second paragraph. So Krishna is Ishwar. If you want to call him Ishwara, you have to call him Param Ishwar. Because Shiva is also called Ishwar. That is why if you read, many people say, I have read Shiva Puran, it says Shiva is Ishwara. So people get confused. Okay, so Shiva is Ishwara, so Shiva is mentioned God, Krishna is also God. What's happening? So many gods. But they're foolish, because Ishwara doesn't mean God. Ishwara means controller. So Shiva can be called Ishwara because he is controlling this material universe. And Krishna can also be called Ishwara because he is Param Ishwara. So Vyasadeva is not stupid. Vyasadeva has used these words very carefully. Bhagwan is never used for Shiva. It is not used. If you read Shiv Puran, it's mostly Ishvara.
They say sometimes Parameshwara, they say Shiva is Parameshwara.
Yes, Shiva is Parameshwara. They say, actually Shiva is Parameshwara because in Padma Purana it is said, Krishna gave his name to Shiva.
Okay.
Krishna gave his name. Krishna is called Parameshwar. So he gave his name to Shiva. There was a purpose behind that. He wanted to confuse people who are born in this age. Atheistic people. To confuse them. Shiva cannot be called Parameshwara, but so I am writing a book on Shiva. Almost did that. So there were many reasons why Krishna told Shiva to purposefully confuse people and propagate himself as God. And that is why Ram came to worship Rameshwar. Vishnu told, I'll also come, I'll confuse people. So atheistic people who do not read scriptures, they will get confused. That's the idea, no? Faith is developed by scriptures. So people who do not read scriptures, they'll get confused. They will say, okay, Shiva is God, somebody is saying Ram God. So it's polytheistic, we don't believe. But if you read all scriptures, then everything gets solved. Then it is absolutely clear, Adi ante cha madhye cha sarvatra hari giyate. That's the verse from Skand Puran. A famous, very dear verse of Madhvacharya. Bhujam udhirte satyam 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 param satyam bhujam udhirte uchyate ved shastrat param nasti keshava daivam na param. That's so it is said that scriptures say, I speak, that Vedvyas has written, I speak truth, I speak truth, I speak truth, raising my hands, that there is nothing superior to Vedas, scriptures, and nothing supreme to Keshav. All Adi Antecha Madhyecha, everywhere there is Krishna supreme. So that's a point here there, no, Ishvara. Okay, not really management of affairs in material world, we find some official or director. Actually, and above him there is secretary, above him minister, above him president. All are controllers. So that is why if you read Agni Puran, Agni is called Ishvara. If you read Vayu Puran, Vayu is called Ishvara. And it's not wrong because all are controllers in their particular capacity. Each of them is controller, but one is controlled by the another. Now this is very important point. Everybody is controller, but everybody is controlled. What do you mean by that? Like, if you really think about it, what do you understand by this statement?
There is no absolute controller in this material.
The point, what?
He is controller for the lower species, but the controller is also controlled by the higher authority.
Yeah. So if you want to define God, how do you define him? If you want to call Krishna Ishvara, now what do you mean by Param Ishvara? Now define Param Ishvara. What do you define as Param Ishvara as?
He is the controller of all the sub-controllers.
There's no other
Yes.
controller.
Param Ishvara is defined not just by saying he is controller. You have to also say he is controller and he is not controlled by anything. Then that is Param Ishvara. He is not controlled by anything. So you define God by a negative statement, not by a positive statement. No. If you say who is Krishna, Krishna is the one who is not controlled by anything. So automatically it says that he is controlling everything. No, you don't need to say. So not by positive but negative statement. That's important. That means everybody is dependent on somebody else. Or Krishna is independent. That's the idea. He is not controlled. And which word Prabhupada translates in the verse, this statement? Which word is he translating? It's simple.
Mama Bhutamaya.
Yeah.
Maheshwaram.
Maheshwaram. He is translating Maheshwaram. Mahan Ishwar. Who is not controlled by anybody. In Brahma Samhita it is said Krishna is supreme controller. There are many controllers undoubtedly, both in material spiritual world. See, material world there is a controller, Shiva, Parvati. In spiritual world, Lakshmi, Narayan, Krishna. But Krishna is supreme controller and his body is Satchitanand, non-material. Why he is supreme controller? Because his body is non-material. Anything material needs to be controlled. Anything material is dependent on something else, no?
Yeah.
Like our body, it's dependent on air, fire, water, trees. Trees are dependent on sunlight. Sunlight is dependent on something. Matter has to be dependent on something else for its existence. But spirit is independent. That is why Prabhupada gives us logic. Why he is not controlled by anybody? Because his body is Satchitanand. So when you read Prabhupada purports, Prabhupada is giving logic also. Why? If we don't read properly, then we'll miss everything.
But when we have some people, when they are glorifying Guru, they say Satchidananda Vigraha or something.
Yeah, that is just a matter of why Satchidananda Vigraha? Because he is connected to God. Otherwise, his body is material, of course. He will get ill. There was one sannyasi in Gaudiya Math and he got sick. So then he was shouting. This happened really in Vrindavan. He was in pain, so he told his disciples, bring doctor. So then they told, no, Maharaj, you are Satchidanand Vigraha. It was crazy. And at about 2 o'clock, then he scolded everybody. Nonsense, get lost, This body is material. But it acts spiritually. Matter acts spiritually. This is different from spiritual. There's a difference, no? Totally spiritual and matter acting spiritually. So, iron becoming hot and fire, they're two different things. So that's why we say Satchitanand. But here, Krishna is really non-material. That's why he's not controlled by anybody.
Lord Shiva has material body in that case?
Yeah, Lord Shiva has material body. Everybody's material body. Now the question is, why a spiritual person who has spiritual body, he's not under control of anybody? Why? Why it's like that? Why people who have material bodies? Prabhupada is saying that Krishna has spiritual body, that's why he's not controlled by anybody. So why people who have material bodies, they are controlled? People who have spiritual bodies are not controlled.
Because matter is always inferior to...
Yeah, so this is a question, no?
Yeah.
Now you read next paragraph. Material bodies cannot perform wonderful acts described in previous verse. Prabhupada is immediately answering this question. So the system to read Prabhupada purpose is, you ask a question, and if your question is correct, your answer will be there in next verse. Because Prabhupada is thinking, no, when he's writing, there's a thread of some logic. When any writer writes something, there has to be some thread of logic, no? He's not just writing anything. So behind this purpose, you have to trace that thread. Then we can understand how Prabhupada is thinking. So you got the answer. Material bodies cannot perform wonderful acts. So what act? What act they cannot perform? We read, no?
Yeah.
Krishna is everywhere, still he is not anywhere. Contradictory qualities. So material bodies cannot do that. They have just one function, and for doing the other function, you need somebody's help. You get, if you're here, and if you want to, but you're not everywhere. So to know all information, you have to travel, no? That's why you're dependent. You have to be controlled. But spiritual, you're here, you're everywhere. You don't need any controller. So they can perform wonderful acts, mystical acts. No hunger, no thirst, nothing. You don't need anybody. Simple. Independent, no? His body is eternal, blissful, full of knowledge. Because he is blissful, he doesn't need anybody for his happiness. He's not dependent. Because he is full of knowledge, he can know everything. He doesn't need help of anybody to know anything. Just by sankalp he can know anything. So why he should be dependent, no?
Yeah, I have a question. Is it okay? So when you say body is full of knowledge, what does that mean? How?
Bodies, actually our material bodies are dead. There's no knowledge, no? It's dead. But Krishna's body is full of knowledge means, I can't define. It is like that. That means if he closes his eyes, he can know everything. But for us it is not like that. Automatically all knowledge is revealed to him. That the point is, automatically whatever he wants to know, he can know in 1 second. But it doesn't happen with us. But how it is, we don't know. Nobody knows.
I have another question. Like when devotees pass their bodies, then they go to Goloka, they say they get spiritual body, right, Prabhu? So is that spiritual body like what we are talking here?
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Spiritual body.
So they will have all like full of knowledge and all.
Yeah, they will have everything. But it will not be equal to Krishna. That's all. Quantity. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. You see, you know what? You're asking spiritual body as knowledge. It is simple to understand because when we chant, as we go beyond body, automatically realizations come. Automatically we will understand many things which are actually might not be in the book. So some things, knowledge will start revealing. It is there in us. Everything is there. Prabhupada says, no, it is covered. So as we chant, like suppose what is a Sarupa? Nobody is going to tell us. We know that, but we have forgotten. So as we chant, automatically that knowledge will be revealed. Prabhupada says, in spiritual world, everybody is perfect. Like everybody will know music, mridanga, speaking, decoration. Everybody will know everything because they're perfect. All knowledge is revealed to them. You don't need to learn anything there. So it's self-revealed. Self-revealed. Although it's not common man, the foolish deride him and consider to be man, like Shishupal. See, Prabhupada now he comes to this word Manushim. His body is called here Manushim. This word. Because he is acting just like a man. He is not a man. It is not Manushya, it is Manushim. A friend of Arjuna, a politician involved in battle of Kurukshetra. So you know what? For us, is this a good information or bad information? That is acting just like a man. Oh, do you understand my question?
Yeah, it's good in the sense that then he can correlate with his devotees and everyone.
Yeah. It is a bad news for maybe Gyanis. Oh, he's acting like a man. Oh, then this means Krishna is not God. There's some God within him.
Yeah.
No, they then interpret. So, for us, it is a very nice news. He's acting like a man. That means we can relate to him.
Yes.
If he would act just like God, then we can't relate to him. No. That is why Krishna came in Vrindavan. He's playing with gopis, Yashoda, Anand Baba. We like that more. No, we don't like to hear we like to hear that Krishna is creating this universe, destroying this universe, but that is not so pleasing. Because if you hear like that, then Krishna is somewhere, we are somewhere, there's no connection.
Awe and respect, but
no relationship, no. So for us, it is a very good news. Manushim tanum ashritam. For foolish people, see, it is a contradiction. Foolish people deride him When he descends. Foolish people say that he's acting like a human being. For them, it is foolishness, but for us, we relish that fact. There's a difference between them and us, no? They are also considering Krishna as normal, ordinary human being. In Vrindavan, everybody is considering Krishna as ordinary human being, no?
Yes.
So then what's the difference between them and foolish people? What is the difference? Now tell me, what is the difference? And in fact, some people say that, some people actually comment that Vrajvasis were fools because they couldn't recognize that Krishna is God. They took Krishna to be ordinary boy, but Dwarkavasis were better than them because they could see Krishna as God. So how do you counteract this argument?
Maybe the people in Vrindavan, if they knew he was God, they couldn't love him as much.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
The question is, how do you differentiate?
How to differentiate between them? That's my question.
Atheists don't love Krishna.
No, but okay. Maybe you're right. Yeah, this can be point. Yeah, the atheist who consider himself ordinary human being, they don't love him, but Vrajvasis love him. No, the difference is that Vrajvasis understand he's God, but because they want to serve him, they want to love him. That love makes them forget. Yeah, actually they don't forget. They don't have time to think that he's God. That's the point. It's not that they do not know. Because if you read Bhagavatam Gopi Geet, you've read Gopi Geet? You know that? So Gopi Geet you read that song which you sing in Vrindavan and Kartik, Jayati te dekam janmana tava. It's a very beautiful song. So Gopis are singing in that song that, hey Krishna, you're God, you took many incarnations. So when Krishna disappeared in Raslila, then they become sad and they're singing, Krishna, you took many incarnations, you're God, but now you are Jayati de tikam janmana tava. When you have come in Vrindavan, this Vrindavan has become so fortunate by touch of your feet. So they know. So Nand Baba, when there was a fire in Vrindavan, Nand Baba called Krishna, Krishna Mahabhao, Purna Brahma Sanatana. Krishna, you are Purna Brahma. So there are indications in Bhagavatam, they know. But the point is, they don't want to focus on that fact. Just like, for example, you know that your husband is an officer in a company, no? But you don't like to think that fact in the home, no? Then you are officer, we know, but that is in your office, Here, you are not officer, no? Why? Because you love. So similarly is Vrindavan. It's not they're ignorant of the fact that he's God. They don't like to think about that. Why they don't like to think about that? Why?
Because they won't have a nice relationship with Krishna in this mood.
If we have respect for them, we will not have the intimacy.
I told you yesterday, there's just one word you have to never forget. You know that? Service.
Service.
If you always think he's God, you will not be able to serve him properly, no? If you're so conscious he's an officer, you can't serve him properly. So for service, they don't like to focus on that fact. Not for their enjoyment. It's not like that. So that is why this verse is important. You can interpret this verse in two ways. You see? Now two meanings are coming. When Krishna says, Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanum ashritam, fools deride me when I descend in human form, but devotees relish him when he descends in human form. You can say both things, no? You can change this verse. So fools deride him, devotees relish him when he descends in human form. That is why Prabhupada mentions this word. His body is called here Manushim because he is acting like a man, a friend of Arjuna. Giving example, no? Friend of Arjuna. Arjuna relishes him as a friend. He doesn't deride him. See, so there's a point here. Prabhupada is giving example of his devotees to help us understand that we relish him when he acts like human. Just like Arjuna is relishing his friend. Politician involved in Battle of Kurukshetra. Yudhishthira Maharaj was relishing Krishna as a politician. He was a king, no? He's a politician. Good. In so many ways, he is acting like an ordinary man, But actually his body is Satchitanand Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge, absolute. This is confirmed in Vedic language, Satchitanand Rupaya Krishnaya. This very famous line, you should remember this from Gopal Tapani Upanishad. Satchitanand Rupaya Krishnaya. I offer my obeisance to Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna, who is eternal blissful form of knowledge. His form is having bliss and knowledge, both. His form is having bliss. What do you understand by that? His form is having knowledge. That I told you, no? Yeah. He's having self-revealed knowledge. His form is having bliss. What do you understand by that?
He's always, he's free from any anxieties, material.
Okay, yeah. Anything else? Yeah. One thing you can say, he's self-satisfied. Atmaram? That is one aspect. One understanding. His form is full of bliss. Second? Any other meaning? You see, when you meet a person, and if that person is very charming, some people are charming, no? Then you say, oh, he's a charming man, no? Why you call him charming? Because his activities are like charming, you know. So Krishna's form is full of bliss means his activities, his pastimes are full of variety. Variety is mother of enjoyment. You have heard this, no? So bliss is created by variety. So Krishna is doing so many things, so many wonderful activities. That is why Brajvasis say his form is full of bliss. Every moment is a surprise for them. Krishna is giving them surprises, no? He is doing so many activities which you can't even imagine, no? Govardhan hill lifting, what is happening, you know, and drinking fire. These are all nice, these are all interesting things. So that is why we say his form is full of bliss. He is doing activities which are wonderful. That is what is Prabhupada's first line, no? Material bodies cannot perform wonderful acts. So wonderful acts is related to bliss. It produces bliss. And your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss and eternality. Okay, now Prabhupada is bringing another point. Despite the transcendental quality of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are so many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad Gita who deride Krishna as ordinary man. So, you know what Prabhupada is trying to say now? Verse says, Avajananti mam muda. So, who are fools? Now Prabhupada is explaining. First, fools are those who do not have knowledge of scriptures. Second, fools are those who have knowledge of scriptures. They are also fools. But they don't come to conclusion that Krishna is God. They are also fools.
Okay.
So this is second category of fools. And, Prabhupada in his purport will bring more categories if you read properly.
Yeah, that's the same question I had. Like even Kamsa, this Ravana, they also had a knowledge of.
Yeah, they had, but they didn't come to conclusion. Yeah, so both are fools, who doesn't have knowledge of scriptures, but yet might consider Krishna as God, and who have knowledge of scriptures but don't consider Krishna as God. Both are fools. Scholars and commentators. The scholar may be born as an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to poor fund of knowledge. I have seen many scholars who know Vedas upside down, inside out, but they don't accept Krishna as supreme. Many scholars. Even this Kachi, we are talking about Jain Saraswati. He's a very scholarly person. You can't argue with him. It's impossible. He's Sanskrit, Vedas, and he doesn't conclude Krishna as God. So according to us, he's fool. That's why Prabhupada, you see small books, he's saying again, no? They're fools and rascals. So one person was there, Dr. Sharma in Bombay. He was having discussion with Prabhupada. So he told Prabhupada, why you are calling fools and rascals? At least they have some knowledge. You're calling everybody fool and rascal. This is not good. It's not decent, At least you can give some credit to them for their knowledge. So Prabhupada says, why should I call them fool rascal? You're also fool rascal. And then he was laughing, oh Prabhupada, but I don't like this. Prabhupada says, no, but Krishna is saying they are fools, so I am calling them fools. Simple. So, Prabhupada didn't deviate from his stance. He just repeated what Krishna is repeating now. So that is the scholar may be born, but due to conception of Sri Krishna, due to poor fund of knowledge, therefore he is called Mudha. Prabhupada says, for only foolish person consider Krishna to be ordinary human being. The foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of Supreme Lord and his different energies. The scholars, the question is, Prabhupada is answering the question, why scholars cannot conclude that Krishna is supreme, even after reading scriptures now. Why? I mean to say, scriptures are saying no, so many quotations. Like we are also reading, Brahm Samhita says, Gopalta Apni Upanishad says. Why can't they understand if we can understand? Why? What's the problem?
They do not know the confidential activities of Supreme Lord.
Yes, they do not understand confidential activities of Supreme Lord and his different energies. Prabhupada is not saying Supreme Lord and devotees, because they also read pastimes of Vrindavan. You go to Mayavadis, they discuss pastimes of Vrindavan, gopis, but at the end of pastimes they will say, but Vrajvasis were foolish, because they didn't understand that actually Krishna is impersonal Jyoti. But they discuss externally. So they don't understand the activities of Supreme Lord and his different energies. The point is, they don't understand that Krishna is God and he is controlling all energies. These are not normal devotees. The energies of God which are controlled by Krishna, and whatever is happening in spiritual world, everything has to do with service. They cannot actually understand service. That is why they can't conclude that Krishna is God. Even though there are so many quotations in front of them, they misinterpret because they lack service attitude. That's the idea. Because only by serving him does he reveal himself to us now. So Krishna says confidential activities. Confidential means? What does confidential means? Ras Leela?
Confidential activities. Ras Leela.
No, it's not necessary. Confidential activities means all activities in spiritual world. And what is so confidential in that? Confidential in that is, it might seem when you hear these pastimes that people are enjoying, but actually whatever is happening, it is service, no? It might seem that Satyabhama is envious with Rukmani. So that's why scholars can't understand. They read entire Vedas. They read, okay, Vedas is saying Satchit Anand Rupaya Krishnaya. Krishna is God. But when they read activities, Krishna is stealing clothes. What is his God? This is nonsense, no? And Rukmani is envious of Satyabhama. Come on, we are saying they are energies of God, they are ordinary females. What is happening? So they can't adjust in their mind. You understand?
Yeah.
Because it's simply ordinary mundane anger, lust, envy. So all these Jain and Buddhists, they say, come on, we have read Vedas, we read the statements, but something else is happening in the past times. So then they are forced to interpret that Krishna is not God, but within Krishna, there is God. That's why Prabhupada says they do not know confidential activities. It's not just activities. Confidential here means, what is so confidential in those pastimes? Confidential is service. Whatever is happening, envy, lust, that is all for service of God. This confidential thing they can't understand. So, Prabhupada's every word is important. That's when you read Prabhupada's book, every word is important. You can't skip any word of Prabhupada. So if you skip this confidential word, if you say they do not know activities of Krishna, then it's wrong, because they know activities of Krishna. They maybe know better than us. All Mayavadis, they do katha on Krishna. You go to Vrindavan. And more interesting than whatever devotees speak, there is one Mayavadi, Akhandanand Saraswati. Yeah. He has written commentary on Bhagavad, and that's the most famous in Vrindavan. But he's Mayavadi. So, what do you do? Yeah, they write commentaries because they write, Krishna is so nice. They are like the female gopis are envious, he's stealing everything he did right. But at the end they say, but because there's God within him, impersonal, that's why all these things are happening. They twist all the story. So because they don't know, confidential. That is the meaning of gopi. Gopi means, you know what's the meaning of gopi? Gopniye. Gopniye? Secret. Secret is confidential. So gopis are called gopis because they have a secret. And what is their secret? Service attitude. That's what we have to learn from them. So Prabhupada is using confidential. Well, I'm preparing that seminar now, how to read Prabhupada books. I will explain all these things in that. What points you have to keep in mind so that you can see. They do not know that Krishna's body is symbol of complete knowledge and bliss. It is proprietor of everything that be, and that he can award liberation to anyone. Param bhavam achananto. So Prabhupada is explaining this word, param bhavam. His nature is transcendental. What do you mean by transcendental? First meaning is transcendental, that he can create, maintain and destroy. Second meaning is his body is full of knowledge, bliss and eternity. And third meaning is he can give liberation to anyone. That's why he's transcendental to modes. He's giving liberation. People who are in modes, they cannot give liberation. People who are themselves bound, how can they liberate anybody? So Krishna is liberated beyond param bhavam, beyond transcendental, beyond modes. So he can give liberation. This is third meaning of liberation. So you can put this purport in meanings, Who is a fool? Tuck, tuck, tuck. What do you mean by transcendental nature? Okay, 3 points. So you have to get the points out. Because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Well, we have... What's happening? What are you doing? Okay. You know what? It is already 1 hour. So what to do?
We can continue, bro. We're not in a hurry. We have all day.
We can, but we have to go, na? 11 o'clock. Yeah.
But it's up to you.
Okay,
Few more minutes.
Okay, few more minutes. Okay, next paragraph we'll do this. Nor do they know that appearance of Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is manifestation of his internal energy. This is, Prabhupada is bringing another point. Appearance of God is manifestation of his internal energy. Now, why Prabhupada is bringing this point? Anybody tell? He appears by his internal energy, not by material energy. Why is bringing this point?
Because he's telling Krishna has so many transcendental qualities. That is one of the that you can also.
Okay, you can say that. You can say that. So this is the fourth explanation of Param Bhavam. Same. He is transcendental. That's the fourth explanation. Why is transcendental? Because he can appear by using his internal energy. We are not transcendental. We cannot appear by internal energy, So there are 4 meanings to transcendental. So anybody asks you, what do you mean by transcendental? Now you can explain. Okay, transcendental means 4 things. It's not abstract idea, no? Yeah. Transcendental means, okay, what? There's glow or just what do you explain? Like people can't explain. So now we have 4 things, transcendental. We exactly know what's transcendental. He's master of material energy, as has been explained in several places. Mama Maya Dhuratyaya. He claims that the material energy, all the very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. What do you mean by surrender? Whoever surrenders to him can get out of control of material energy. What do you mean by that?
Whoever surrenders to Krishna can get out of matter.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
So he releases the effect of material energy on him. Like he.
Okay. How?
He is a supreme controller, so he can.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. My question is, what do you mean by surrender here? Whoever surrenders to me, they can get out of control of material energy.
Serve him, love him.
Here, that's the another point you have to keep in mind when you read Prabhupada purports. Word might be same, but the meaning according to the context has different flavors. So here it's not serve and love. Here is one more, there is another meaning. It can be servant love, but the appropriate meaning is, when you surrender to God, you are released from influence of illusory energy, no? So here surrender means following His instructions. Because if you don't follow His instructions, and you are simply serving Him whatever you want, then we will not be free of material energy. You have to follow, like Prabhupada says in one of his letter to one of his disciples. That disciple was saying, Prabhupada, I am like sad and not advancing. So Prabhupada says that, see, you have to follow my instructions. So I can bless you, but if I tell you that you have to be careful while shaving, and if you're not careful, you'll cut your throat. And if you don't follow the instruction, I can bless you, but still you will cut your throat. No. So by Krishna's blessing, influence of energy will be over, but only when we follow His instructions. That's the point. That's the important point here. If we don't follow His instructions, nothing is going to happen. We'll fall down. No matter how much we pray to Him, no matter how much He will bless, but He will, well, you don't follow His instructions. He is saying, don't jump, and you jump. Krishna bless me, what? Then you'll die. That's all. That's foolishness. So actually, if you read the purport to this verse, Mama Maya Duratya, this verse, Prabhupada brings a point of instructions. Afterwards you read. Devi Eshuganamai Mama Maya Duratya. Prabhupada will bring point of instructions here. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of influence of material energy, then how can Supreme Lord conducts creation, maintenance and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature have a material body like us? So that's why Krishna's name is Mukunda, who awards liberation, who awards mukti. He can, if his name can award mukti, why he will be in bondage? The point is that, how can he be in bondage? So this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. It's complete foolishness by scholars and commentators. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that personality of Godhead, Krishna, appearing just like ordinary man, can be controller of all atoms, of all gigantic manifestations of universal form. So to prove that, Krishna showed universal form in his stomach, no? Yashodama? He showed, see? To scholars and commentators, see, I am God. Within me all universes are there. Yeah, it is clearly stated concerning his Yogam Aishwaram. Where we are. The biggest and the minute are beyond their conception. So they cannot imagine that a form like human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Vamandev, he became biggest of biggest. And Matsya Avatar, when Matsya Avatar came, it was very small, no? So, actually, although he is controlling infinite and finite, he is apart from manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his Yoga Aishwaryam. Paschima Yoga Aishwaryam. Previously that verse came, no? 9.4.9.5. His inconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control infinite and finite simultaneously. And that he can be aloof from them. So Krishna is finite? No. He is infinite? No. See, Prabhupada says, he can control infinite and finite, and he can remain aloof from them. So if you say Krishna infinite, it's not a good thing. It's not glorification of him. He's even beyond infinite. We can conceive finite, we can never conceive infinite. But we can't conceive what Krishna is. We cannot even begin to conceive what Krishna is. Because he is even beyond infinite. That's Krishna. So, this statement is nice, no? He can control infinite and finite. Yes. So, Mayavadis like to say Krishna is infinite.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, he's all over.
That's why there is no form.
Yeah, that's why there is no form. That's why Prabhupada is making this point. He's beyond infinite. So, if you want to defeat Mayavadis, you have to say, if you tell to Mayavadi that Krishna is infinite, then he'll catch you. Then he'll say, okay, good.
Why he has a form then?
Yeah, then why is a form? So then you have to say he's beyond finite and infinite, both. You have to put this point clearly, otherwise there can be problems if you discuss with some scholarly person. Although foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like human being, can control infinite and finite, those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can do impossible possible. Therefore they completely surrender unto Him, engaged in Krishna consciousness, devotional service unto Lord. So rest, you please go and read and try to understand this verse, purport. And then I'll discuss afterwards. First you try to apply your brain, then we'll see. Any questions? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.